show you.
Okay, good morning again, or afternoon, folks. It looks like there may be several folks going to be here, and if that turns out to be the case, I wanted to give everybody a little bit of a heads up of how things are. We have one restroom out here by the exit. But it is just, one size fits all. But down the hall out this door, and you go down the hall to the left, there is all of the mall bathrooms that are available to us. If you think that, now this is probably going to last a while. This is not going to be your garden variety funeral. So if you think that you might need the restroom in the next day, you probably want to sit close to this edge so that you can head down the hall and do that. So anyway, Lord bless you. We're glad you're here. Thanks for coming. Yeah.
Louisiana.
Yep.
So let's start with Precious Memories. D. Connor. Unmute, Dalton. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Precious Memories indeed. Indeed. Precious Memories. We could do Win the Roll. You want to trade me? You want to start it, Mom?
All right, well, boy, good afternoon, folks. We're welcome to the fabulous venue of Flathead Ecclesia, internationally renowned church here. We haven't had a crowd like this for, well, ever, for example, but not to put too fine a point on it, but it really, we're so glad to see so many of you here, and this is a bittersweet time, obviously. Gene was just a one-of-a-kind guy. So if you're expecting kind of a garden variety funeral, I think you must have taken a wrong turn somewhere. This probably will not be that. And there will be probably lots of tears, and there are probably going to be lots of joy and lots of hoedown. But anyway, I wanted to help for you to understand how things are happening. Out those doors and about a quarter of a mile that way, there are a whole bunch of restrooms. When you see the big pillars in the middle, there are restrooms there. I would expect that many may need that information because this will probably not be over in 15 minutes. And there is one restroom back here, but it is just one. And so going out that way is probably the best. All of Jane's grandkids are musical, and several of them are professional musicians. And so, you know, it's I've been looking forward to this time for some time. But it will be a time to remember Gene, who a very unique guy. First of all, David is going to sing a song that Gene always requested around our house in the living room. He would hear David playing here and there, say, "Hey, can you play Long Black Train?" And so David would always play it for him, and so David is playing that now to get us started today.
Well, yeah, I was fortunate enough to live with Grandma and Grandpa for the last couple of years. And almost every day at some point I'd be upstairs playing music. And as soon as I wasn't just noodling around, if I was actually playing real songs or something, it wouldn't take very long for Grandpa would go, "Well, how about Long Black Train?" Well, I guess it was the most country song I did, so I'll play it one more time. Yeah, turn off your phones or silence them. Oh yeah, we're recording all this. It's real high-tech stuff, so get all your calls out of the way earlier. Oh, and also this is Grandpa Gene's guitar. We're playing several of his instruments up here. That's his dobro, and it's just kind of real neat that we have that musical heritage and legacy to remember. There's a long black train coming down the line, feeding off souls that are lost in time. Rails us in only evil lanes. Watch out, brother, for that long black train. Look to the heavens, you can look to the skies. You can find redemption staring back to your eyes. There is protection and there's peace the same. Burning your ticket for that long black train. You know there's victory in the Lord, I say. A victory in the Lord. Cling to the Father in His holy name. And don't go riding down that long black train. Well, I can hear the whistle from a mile away. It's sounds so good, but I must stay away. That train is a beauty, making everybody stare. Its only destination is the middle of nowhere. You know there's victory in the Lord, I say. Victory in the Lord. Cling to the Father in His holy name, and don't go riding on that long black train. There's an engineer on that long black train, making you wonder if the ride is worth the pain. He's just waiting on your heart to say, let me ride on that long black train. But you know there's victory in the Lord, I say. Victory in the Lord. Cling to the Father in His holy name, and don't go riding on that long black train. You know there's victory in the Lord, I say. Victory in the Lord. Cling to the Father in His holy name, and don't go riding on that long black train. That devil's riding on that long black train. Watch out, brother, for that long black train.
Dad, Dad. Dad, they're going to present the flag.
Ask if you'd all do whatever you need to do to focus your thoughts on God. We're here today. Am I on at all? We're here today to celebrate the most significant life that I have ever met. My own father passed away when I was 19. Gene has been my father for 50 years, and I have never looked up so much to any individual in my whole life. It took me at least 30 years to convince my wife that no one could ever measure up to her dad, and I finally got to quit trying. But he's been there in every phase of my life that's been difficult, and he's just been a rock and a strong place and somebody to lean on. Which, I mean, if you can imagine somebody my size leaning on somebody his size, but he could carry me. So we're going to take a minute. Man, I grew up in church. I was in church when I was 4 days old. And I've heard all of the prayers of invocation and inviting God's presence and all that. Listen, I got news for you. Anybody that showed up with a belief in Jesus Christ showed up with God in your hearts today. He arrived with us. He's already here. We don't need to invite him. But I would like to ask for his influence over what we do and say today. God, we don't even know how to thank you for giving us Gene. And some of us are a little frustrated with you for taking him away, but man, what a life. 94 years of just being the man. Always a kind word, always a way too quick a wit. Father, I pray today that as we attempt in some pathetic way to honor his life, that you would somehow guide our thoughts, that you would steer our focus, and help us to remember well a life that was lived well. In Jesus' name, amen.
Yeah, thank you. So today, one of the things that was a part of the of our service, because Gene served in the military. Back in the day, he was serving during the Korean conflict, but he was in Panama during all that time, and so he's always told a lot of the family stories. But as a result of that, we have today with us an honor guard from the Montana National Guard to present a flag to Louise for his service. So thank you guys for serving, and thanks for being here.
let you know, we are recording this, but we're also recording you guys. So any of these songs, this is basically a concert for Gene, of some of his, hand-selected songs. And so if you know them, sing along. If you ever feel like clapping, you're welcome to clap. This is a concert for him, basically. So I've got a little short story, too. In the last few years, as Gene and Louise have been at Larry and Rena's place, anytime I'd stay over there, the mornings were always the most special time around coffee. Gene would get the most talkative, of course, and we'd get to playing music. And whenever we'd play, he would say, or look over at me and out of the blue just say, play my favorite. I found out that it depended on who was there, which one was the favorite. But for me, that song was "Rank Stranger," pretty special one, and one that reflected aging and getting along in years, losing friends and the familiarity of an old place, but what's yet to come, and how that becomes perfect. So this tune's called Rank Stranger. Another quick story. Taylor told me this morning that the lyrics for this song were in Grandpa Gene's dobro case. It's the only sheet of music that's in that dobro case. And that was how many years old now? Do you think that's been in there?
I'd have been 8 or 9.
Yeah. So it's been in there a while.
Over 20 years.
Yeah. So 20 years that thing's been in there. And I saw a verse that I never sing. Second verse, kind of a mystery verse that I'm going to try to remember and see if I can't sing that one.
Just give me 1 second.
Yep. I wandered again to my home in the mountains, where in youth's early dawn I was happy and free. I looked for my friends, but I never could find them. I found they were all rank strangers to me. Everybody I met seemed to be a rank stranger. No mother, no dad. Not a friend could I see. I knew not their names. I knew not their faces. Found they were all rank strangers to me. Well, I searched every face for the sign of loved ones, and I asked everyone where the old folks could be. I went down the road to inquire of some neighbors, but I found they were all rank strangers to me. Take one. well, they've all moved away. It's the voice of a stranger to a beautiful home on the bright crystal sea. Bright crystal sea. One beautiful day, I'll meet them in heaven, where no one will be, a stranger to me, a stranger to me.
Eugene Smith of Kalispell passed away in his sleep October 26, 2022, at the Whitefish home of his daughter and son-in-law. Gene was born September 11, 1928 in Rush Springs, Oklahoma, to Roy V., quite a character, and Ethel F. Patrick Smith, the sixth of 7 siblings. Say that twice, fast. Gene was raised in Rush Springs with brief family stays in Texas to help in the war effort during World War II. He graduated from Rush Springs High School. Gene enlisted in the U.S. Army November 5th, 1948. He signed up for artillery, thinking he would spend his time nearby in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Instead, he was sent to Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, and then to Aberdeen Proving Grounds in Maryland. He spent 3 years deployed in Panama during the Korean War and was honorably discharged June 10th, 1952. Gene came to Montana. You need to just kind of take a deep breath and relax, because this is a big deal obituary. It's a long one, okay? So I'm just going to take the pressure off of you right now. Take a deep breath in, take a deep breath out, and listen to a great story, okay? Gene came to Montana in 1952 to help his sister Nadine Bolin and her young children following the death of her husband Charles in a hunting accident that fall. Gene moved to Montana permanently in 1953. Gene met his future wife Louise Meeks in Kalispell that year, as Louise and her parents and siblings attended the church that Nadine and Charles had pastored there. Gene and Louise were married June 25th, 1954, celebrating 68 years of marriage before his passing. That's a while. Church was always an important part of Gene's life, from his early days at the Methodist Church in Rush Springs to First Church of God in Kalispell, where he met Louise, later Northridge Heights Church of God, then Whitefish Community Church of God, where his son-in-law pastored, later Kalispell Nazarene, and finally Flathead Ecclesia in Kalispell, where he played his fiddle with the worship team just 4 days before his passing. Right here. They had 3 children, Rena, Rick, and my favorite personally, Melody, as well as 7 grandchildren, 11 great-grandchildren. Over the years, they opened their home to many nieces, nephews, and others needing a place to live. In Montana, Gene worked at Glacier Concrete Pipe and then McElroy and Wilkin Ready Mix, retiring from there after 28 years, mainly driving a concrete truck. During those years, he acquired the affectionate nickname Snuffy due to his small stature and uncanny resemblance to the popular cartoon character, along with his last name being Smith and his wife's name, Wheezy. Many contractors and construction workers in the valley didn't know him by anything other than Snuffy. Gene inherited a lifelong love of music and had the natural ability to sing and to play nearly any stringed instrument he was given. He passed that talent and passion down to some of his children and to all 7 grandchildren. He enjoyed a lifetime of playing music in the churches they attended, playing with his big buddy Don Landon and others in many area nursing homes and assisted living facilities, and playing in the treasured family jam sessions through the years. He had a fondness for the colors red and gold, no kidding, and was known for adding gold paint to anything he could. I remember a little bicycle that he rebuilt for all the grandkids to ride, and it was painted gold right down to the rubber on the tires. There wasn't a stitch of any other color on that entire bike. I don't know how the kids were brave enough to ride that thing around in the neighborhood, but they did. He had a we did that already. Christmas was one of his favorite holidays, and he loved decorating with red lights, red bulbs, and red ornaments, including red aluminum Coke bottle ornaments that he had carefully crafted by cutting out the bottles out of Coke cans. Gene was a lifelong hunter, and although his main area of hunting was always well west of town, he enjoyed going east of the mountains in Montana when his family was growing up and hunting big game in Alaska various times with family. Several of the animals also became typical Montana wall decor, but his main goal was feeding his family, and he always succeeded in that. He passed his love of hunting on to his family, and those hunts and lunches around the campfire together, where he liked grouse cooked about every way except on a shovel. Wow. Wherever they happened are treasured memories. Gene was a hard worker, a loving husband, and a devoted family man, no kidding. Through the years, he enjoyed camping trips with family and friends, vacations around the U.S., especially visiting family in the Southwest and Oklahoma, numerous trips to and months living and working with family up in Alaska. He and Louise enjoyed 2 cruises to the Caribbean and many Hawaiian vacations, including taking family to their youngest daughter's wedding there. I wonder who that was. He spent a few years creating oil paintings on canvas and building frames for them. Again, he was self-taught and amazingly creative. He expanded that to woodworking, making numerous wine cork trivets, antler back scratchers, diamond willow walking sticks, miniature music box baby grand pianos, foot massagers. How many have foot massagers? Yeah. Decorative mirrors, games, and lots of home decor. Gene designed and built 2 of their family homes west of Kalispell and helped build homes for both daughters in Whitefish in the 90s. He did amazing masonry and rock work building beautiful river rock fireplaces. As the grandkids and great-grandkids came along, Gene and Louise traveled to attend their sports, musical, and dance events. He loved practical jokes. I can't even get started there. We're not even going there. For which he was legendary. Happy to play with any little kids and collecting toys and jokes to entertain them when they came to visit. He liked strong coffee, Alpine Touch, salt, and some more salt. It hardens your arteries and makes your back straight, he was known to say. Soda pop, sweet tea, sugar, and an endless horde of junk food and candy added to his diet favorites of fried potatoes, corn on the cob, and watermelon. He loved to eat out and to tease the waitresses that became friends through the years. He had a lifetime of stories that he loved to remember and tell, and he often started with, "Did I ever tell you about the time?" His childhood and growing up years, the Army, hunting experiences, vacations and trips, pouring concrete around northwest Montana, including on Big Mountain and Glacier Park, it all sparked stories that he loved to share. Gene was preceded in death by his grandparents and his parents, his siblings and their spouses, and Louise's parents and 4 of her siblings. He's survived by his beloved wife of 68 years, Louise. Their children, Rena and Larry Lauderay, Rick and Beverly Smith, Melody and Dennis Ackley, their 7 grandchildren, including Lori and Jason Stouffer, Rachel Lauderay, Luke and Stephanie Lauderay, David and Jill Lauderay, Taylor and Allison Ackley, Connor and Katie Ackley, Dalton and Kara Ackley, and 11 great-grandchildren who were Grandpa Gene's great delight in recent years. Zora Lee, Kira, Bennett, Zaya, Hunter, Desi, Effia, June, Emmy Lou, Harlan, and my grandson Calvin. Gene was close to his many nieces and nephews as well as to Louisa's siblings, their spouses, and their families. He was the patriarch. He is so loved and missed. He is my hero. Next.
Okay, well, that was poor planning on someone's part to put us next. Oh, my goodness.
Sorry.
Okay, we got it. This song, Grandpa Tell Me About the Good Old Days, is from like an era, you know? The eras where certain songs would come in and out of rotation a little more than others. And this one, from the time we moved back to Montana, sang with the family at all the family gatherings. This was our thing. I guess they chose for us to do this instead of Luke to do I Am My Own Grandpa, which was from the same era. But sorry, bud. Okay.
Tell me when.
Grandpa, tell me about the good old days. Sometimes it feels like this world's gone crazy. Grandpa, take me back to yesterday, when the line between right and wrong didn't seem so hazy. Did lovers really fall in love to stay? Stand beside each other, come what may? Was a promise really something people kept? Not just something they would say and then forget? Did families really bow their heads to pray? Daddies really never go away. Oh, oh, Grandpa, tell me about the good old days. Grandpa, everything is changing fast. We call it progress, but I just don't know. And Grandpa, let's wander back into the past, then paint me the picture of long ago. Do lovers really fall in love to stay? Stand beside each other, come what may? Was a promise really something people kept? Not just something they would say, then forget? Did families really bow their heads to pray? Daddies really never go away. Whoa, whoa, Grandpa, tell me about the good old
I'm the only dumb one in the bunch. I don't have my song memorized.
Right here. We got you, buddy.
All right, good thing somebody does.
Nice guitar, by the way.
Yeah, isn't it? Well, I've got to tell you how I met Gene. We came back to Kalispell. I was born and raised here, but then we went to California for 10 lousy years, and then we moved back. And by then I had been saved down in California. And I had sang in a little church down there in California for a while, but I came back and met a gal who lived right next door to me. And she went to the church where Gene was going, and she said, "Why don't you sing a song at this church?" I said, "Okay." And Gene and Louise were right down there in the front. I went in there and I did that song. And afterwards, Gene come up to me and he says, "You know, we should play music together." I said, "Oh, you play music?" He says, "Yeah, a little." He says, "Little." I said, "Okay, sounds good to me." And then we got together, and he's phenomenal. He was my best friend. And that was in 1969 when I met him, and we played together for 50-some years. Loved the man. This is hard. Especially with this guy playing the dobro that Gene always played with me. He was a fascinating man. Like Dennis said, he was my hero. And we loved each other, and I still love him. I know I'm going to see him again, so it's a good thing. When troubles surround us, when evils come, the body grows weak, the spirit grows numb. When these things beset us, He doesn't forget us. He sends down His love on the wings of a dove. When Noah had drifted on the flood many days, he searched for land in various ways. Troubles he had some, but wasn't forgotten. He sent him His love on the wings of a dove, on the wings of a snow white dove. He sends His pure, sweet love, a sign from above, on the wings of a dove. he was baptized in visual ways. When it was done, God blessed his son. He sent him his love on the wings of a dove, on the wings of a snow white dove. He sends his pure, sweet love, a sign from above, on the wings of a dove, a sign from above, on the wings of a dove. Love you, Gene.
Wow, many memories of Don and Gene singing all over the place. Hours in the living room. We have all kinds of cassette recordings where we've. What's up? Okay, I don't know what to tell you, but okay. Anyway, boy, Don and Gene have just been a fixture for many, many years, and most of us have heard them many times, but a great blessing. Sabrina has been asked by the family to take some pictures because there's not a guest book, and so we've, if you see her taking some pictures, that's why she's doing it for the family. Boy, I don't know what's going to happen with this thing, but maybe that might work. Okay, well, is that more gooder? I believe that Gene was the most mellow person that I have ever met. I don't know that I've ever seen him excited or agitated or worried. Maybe he was just a good actor, but he seems to have just taken everything in stride. Quiet, unassuming, always in the background. Even when he was singing a solo, he was always in the background, seemingly enjoying everything that he did and seemingly enjoying everybody that he was around. Most everybody, most time anyway, I suppose. I don't think I've ever even seen him get excited about a ball game or anything. Other folks could be there and there'd be a ball game on and it's a great big deal. And, I don't think I heard him say hoorah or yippee or anything to speak of. I don't think I have ever seen him down or discouraged. Now, he may have been at some point, I don't know, but I don't think I've ever seen him in that kind of state. I don't recall ever having seen him mad or even upset. One time when our family was attacked, he did make a public comment in defense, so he must have been a little bit agitated at that point, but for him, that agitation was something that the rest of us wouldn't even think about. But if Gene was here today, he would be, he would probably smile. He would be embarrassed by much of what I've said and has been said and what I suspect is fixing to get said. He might smirk, he might titter a little bit. He possibly would chortle, but he would probably not guffaw or anything. I don't know that he was one of the funniest guys I ever knew, but I don't believe I ever heard him laugh out loud, much at least. But he could find or create humor in virtually any situation. And in most situations, he was creating it. Louise mostly would just smile at his humorous injections, mostly. On occasion, she would explain the way more perfectly to him. Like the time he said a Tweety bird in the pulpit when a lady was fixing to sing as inspiration or something like that. I don't know, John probably remembers that, and some of you were there. I like to shook the pew apart. When that lady commenced to warbling around and that Tweety bird went off, I just about came completely unscrewed. Rena was elbowing me and trying to get me to shut up, and I could hardly stay on the pew. But if I recall right, Louise was less enthusiastic about the process and encouraged him that if he wanted to have a home to go to that night, he better retrieve that thing. And Gene and his friends, especially Don, always Don there. Man, yeah, yeah. I don't believe I ever heard anybody in my life say a bad word about Gene. There may have been one somewhere, I don't know. I don't believe I ever heard him say a really bad word about anybody else either. Although from time to time, he would make some kind of a side comment, you know, if somebody was really a dipstick of some sort. But Gene was always playing music somewhere, and he was always doing something to help somebody. A verse that the family talked about that I think really typifies a lot of Gene in many respects is found in James chapter 2, where he says, "What good is it, my brothers, if a man claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save him? Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to him, 'Go, I wish you well, keep warm and well fed,' but does nothing about his physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. But someone will say, 'You have faith, I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by what I do.' You believe that there is one God? Good. Even the demons believe that and tremble." You know, many are the kids and cousins and others that lived with Gene and Louise from time to time down through the years. Their home was always open. They were kind of a center of activity. Probably most every person here has been exposed at some point or another to the gospel of Jesus Christ. Many were raised in very committed homes, but the whole family for generations has been exposed at least to committed Christian families for several generations. But I don't think the younger generation can really grasp a real appreciation for how profoundly significant Jesus as the perfect revelation of God to man was, and the church, which is the imperfect representation of the body of Christ on earth, have been so totally instrumental in supplying the family we have. In the obituary, we see that Charles Bolin, who was Gene's brother-in-law, and married his sister Nadine, the father of Max and Elaine and Lynetta, at some point in his life accepted Christ as Savior and dedicated his life to the ministry of the gospel. He and Nadine planted and pastored the little church in Kalispell, where Louise's mom and dad, Chester and Earlene Meeks, got saved. Also the church where my mom and dad got saved. When Charles was killed in a hunting accident, Gene came into Nadine's life to assist her and came to Montana. And incidentally, Tony, I believe, Gene's longtime hunting partner, was one of those that didn't know at the time, but helped to bring in Charles from the woods where he had been shot. But anyway, because Charlie had been shot and then in a few days later had died, Gene came to help Nadine raise her family, and he came to Montana. It's Jesus and the church that put the Smith family and the Meeks family and my family on a trajectory of faith and put Gene and Louise together. When Gene and others would sing songs like Little Mountain Church House, it's not just poetry with some music to me. These events formed lives of faith and fellowship over multiple generations. This family has not come about by accident or apart from the faith of our fathers. I don't know that I ever heard Gene verbally express faith in Jesus or tell other folks what they should do about it. But I heard him sing about it from the earliest days of my life. I think Gene, in his quiet faith and faithfulness, was somewhat like the guy that stutters when he talks, but can sing beautifully. And songs of faith were clearly his favorite. Now, he also liked a lot of funny and crazy country songs and other kind of songs. When I was just a very little kid, I remember him singing in the basement of the old church in Kalispell there. I don't know what was going on, but he sang Bessie the Heifer and brought the house down, and there's a hole in the bottom of the sea, and I don't know very many ever remember having heard him sing it, but I remember having heard him sing it, and all the way through this, I can sing it right now today. Would you like me to? He also liked the Debellum blues and other kind of things, but for Louise and the rest of us, there's a passage in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 3 and 4 that can provide a perspective that the world cannot offer. And it says this: "Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves have received from God." You know, this is a tough time. It's been a tough time for all of the family, but I tell you what, for everyone that is a believer, there is that settled assurance. You know, Gene may be not here physically, but there will be a time when we will see him again because of what Jesus has done for us. And it's just a stunning, that is such a comfort to those who are thinking about that aspect of life. In Matthew 25, Jesus said this in his parable about the various servants and what they'd been given. And, you know, they took their things and they did whatever they were going to do with them. But those that used their talents for the glory of God and the kingdom and all that and invested the talents they would get, hear the Father say this: "Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I'll put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness." Well, Gene wasn't a preacher. He wasn't a public speaker. There was a lot of stuff that Gene wasn't. But man, he could sing and play and had a heart of service, always helping others, continually helping whenever there was a need, cleaning the church, doing whatever needed to be done, setting up for sportsmen's banquets and all of the, anytime somebody needed to be moved or needed to be helped, he built houses and helped to build several different churches. He was always had a life of service. And to those of us that are left here, as the trials and weirdness and brokenness and the sorrow and the frustration and the futility of life hit us from time to time, Jesus says this: "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." What a blessing, what a gift we have been given in Gene, and what a gift we are to one another. Let us savor the time together, and let us love one another and serve one another and encourage one another as we can, because time is brief. And I believe at this time the great-grandkids are going to come and sing. So I'm curious and anxious to hear that.
Best part about Grandpa was that when people were changing stuff around on stage, he always had a good joke. What's the best part about dating a homeless gal? I see all you know the punchline because you're all here for Grandpa. I don't even have to say it. I played with Grandpa a lot over the years, a lot. So there's a lot of songs that we will play together. Taylor and I rock, paper, scissored for Sailing Towards Home by the Oak Ridge Boys, and Taylor won. So I was going to do Little Mountain Church House, and I was so busy working on this slideshow, and I just felt like that there was a different song I wanted to do, but I couldn't remember it because I had just been preoccupied with all the other things I'd been working on for this service. And so last night, as Stephanie and I were laying down, I remembered this song. I'd played it a couple times with Grandpa over the years, but then I quit playing it because it made me sad. But I thought we'd play it today because I always think of Grandpa when I play this song live. An only child alone and wild, cabinet maker son. His hands were known for different work, his heart was known to numb. He earned his love through discipline, a thundering velvet hand. His gentle means of sculpting songs took me years to understand. Quiet mound of music denied a simpler fate. Tried to be a soldier once, but his music wouldn't wait. The old and collared eye went his own and lived his lone and solitary way. But he gave me a gift I know I never can repay. The leader of the band is tired and his eyes are growing old, but his blood runs through my instrument and his songs are in my soul. My life has been a poor attempt to imitate the man, but I'm just a living legacy to the leader of the band. My brother's lives were different, for they heard another call. One went to Seattle and another to St. Paul. And I'm in Colorado when I'm not in some hotel, digging out the life I've chose and learned to love so well. The leader of the band is tired and his eyes are growing old, but his blood runs through my instrument, his songs are in my soul. My life has been a poor attempt to imitate the man. I'm just a living legacy to the leader of the band. I thank you for the music, your stories of the road. I thank you for the freedom when it came my time to go. I thank you for the laughter and the times when you got tough. Papa, well, I don't think I said I love you near enough. The leader of the band is tired and his eyes are growing old. His blood runs through my instrument, songs are in my my soul. My life has been a poor attempt to imitate the man. I'm just a living legacy to the leader of the band. The leader of the band is tired and his eyes are growing old, but his blood runs through my instrument and his songs are in my soul. My life has been a poor attempt to imitate the man. I'm just a living legacy to the leader of the band. Well, I am a living legacy to the leader of the band. This is a Ricky Skaggs song that I played with Grandpa, I guess. Mom asked if I would do this one too. None of the other cousins knew it, I guess. This is just one that Grandpa and I shared. There's zero chance I'm gonna hit these high notes, Mom. Sound like I'm from Oklahoma. There's a little mountain church house in my thoughts of yesterday, where friends and family gathered for the Lord. There an old-fashioned preacher taught straight and narrow way for what few coins the congregation could afford. Dressed in all our Sunday best, we sat on pews of solid oak. I remember all the voices filled the air. Mama sounded like an angel on them high soprano notes, and when the roll was called up yonder, I'd be there. Looking back now, that little mountain church house has become my life's cornerstone. It was there in that little mountain church house where I first heard the word I based my life upon. At the all-day Sunday singing, the dinner on the ground, many were the souls that were revived, while the brothers and the sisters that gone on to glory land slept in peace beneath the maple groves nearby. Looking back now, that little mountain church house has become my life's cornerstone. It was there in that little mountain church house I first heard the word I based my life upon. Looking back now, that little mountain church house has become my life's cornerstone. It was there in that little mountain church house I first heard the word I based my life upon.
We lived in a little place called Rush Springs in Oklahoma, about 1,000 people. I delivered papers for about a quarter a day, and had 3 or 4 little mean dogs on my route that I just hated to go there because they'd nip at your feet, your ankles. They'd get you every now and then.
Many months have come and gone since I traveled from my home in those Oklahoma hills where I was born. Many page of life has turned, many a lesson I have learned, but I feel like in those hills I still belong. Way down yonder in the Indian Nation, ride my pony on the reservation in the Oklahoma hills where I was born. Way down yonder in the Indian Nation, the cowboy's life is my occupation in the Oklahoma hills where I was born.
We played quite often with him. His dad owned the gin, so we went down and played in the gin in the cottonseed, which was real soft. You could jump off and sink way down into it. Every year, my grandpa and grandma give us a toy truck. They had lights on them that was really something. Boss and G, they came back to Oklahoma with Nadine cars when they went to like a church youth meeting or something. And that's where I first met Louis.
So you don't remember your first date, Grandma, with Grandpa?
Of course she wasn't. She was so excited.
He mostly just come to the house and had coffee and dishes.
They lived down on 8th Avenue West.
Mm-hmm.
Had a big old 2-story house down there. We lived out at that little farmhouse in Manningham. That was a time that I kind of really liked, living in that little farmhouse on the creek
Here's a
there.
little girl playing dress up somewhere under all that lace, standing in her mama's high-heeled shoes with a lipstick covered face. And here's a little boy on a pony, cowboy all the way. He used to pull my hair and make me mad, Saturday matinee. Oh, who'd have thought I'd lose my heart to the same little boy someday? Looking through my old
Had this Mercury, and milk turned over in the back, it kind of smelled in the trunk. Louise was back in Anderson. Melody called her up, said, Mama, I got rid of that milk smell. I rolled the car.
Old memories seem to come alive and open up the past again and let me dream inside. His brother with his very first automobile thought he'd wash the pain away. He took a job that took him west. He's doing very well. Don't see much brother these days. Oh, and this is my favorite of my papa. He's dressed up in a Sunday suit. A white rim hat, a watch on a chain. I'm gonna tell you the truth. It's a picture of a downright handsome man caught in the prime of his youth. Looking through my old pictures, faded photographs. Some of them bring me close to tears. Others make me laugh. Old memories seem to come alive. They open up the past again and let me dream inside. Oh, they open up the past again and let me dream inside.
Going down this road feeling bad, Lord. Going down this road feeling bad. Going down this road feeling bad, Lord. Ain't gonna repeat this away. They fed me on cornbread and beans. Oh Lord, fed me on cornbread and beans. Luke's the best grandkid because he's here. And he's holding me hostage.
When you say nothing else. All right, Grandpa, give us a push.
Drown out the crowd. It's the best I could never find. What's being said between your heart and mine? Smile on your face lets me know that you need me. Truth in your eyes saying you'll never leave me. Touch of your hand says you catch me ever I fall.
3, you start singing. 1, 2, 3. Twinkle.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder why you are up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder why you are.
Amen.
Bright shining as the sun. We've no less days to sing. God heard us singing, heaven knocked. Now, Mama, Mama, teach angels how to sing. Heaven goes silent, Mama sing. David laid down his harp, heaven bell won't ring. Oh, Mama, teach angels how to sing. Though we meet with the darkness and strife, sunny side you also may be. Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every day. It will brighten all the way. It will keep on the sunny side of life. Take it.
He was born in 1889,
Wow.
so they come in about 1902.
And that's when they brought that mandolin down?
Well, his cousin brought the mandolin about that time also. They brought it over here in the covered wagon. When me and Raymond got it, it was in like a shoeboard or a cardboard case, rounded.
Yeah.
And that thing never had a mark on it. It was just like new.
Then I felt a peace so strong, like a babe in mother's arms, and I knew Then I heard a still small voice saying, "Come, just as you are. Welcome, child, back to your home. May you find rest from journeys far."
Wow. That is that's a walk down memory lane, isn't it? Man. Well, so at this time, we're going to give you opportunity, those that would like to come and just share a memory, would like to have all of the family be able to go first. And if there's time before breakfast, then maybe some others can share. But I think that's next on the agenda. That probably stimulated a few memories. So those of you in the family, why don't you come on up, and you're going to stand behind the mic there? Oh, yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, I think it took a wrong turn at the... Okay, so, yeah, Mike, good, all right.
You have to be pretty brave to follow that slideshow. That was so moving. Who knew that Gene could rock those pants back in the 70s so well? My name is Mike Reese, and I am one of the nephews that Gene and Louise helped raise. So they have a big family, but they have an even bigger family that Gene touched. Many of us, most of the cousins, the nieces and nephews were born in Kalispell, but like seeds scattered by the wind, we moved when we were young to places like Portland, Oregon, and Anchorage, Alaska. And every summer, we would come back to Kalispell, Montana, because Gene and Louise would open their home and share their love and their faith with all of us. So my brother Arn and I, we were bookends with Rick, and the three amigos and Connie, our cousin, would just have so much fun every summer in Kalispell as we had this adventure of growing up. But to us, Gene was very special. You know, as young boys, he was kind and gentle, compassionate to us, and loving. And he opened his home every year to all of us. Now, I'm going to share just a really brief reflection. When I was a young boy, they were building their first home, and Gene was incredibly talented. He was a builder, musician, a hunter, one of those people that could do anything. And they're building their first home across from the log houses where some of us lived back in the day. And it was the summer, and I was there, and Gene gave me a hammer, and he let this young boy be part of the men helping to build the house. And of course, you know, I'm pounding the nail in, and what do? I pound it sideways. You would think Gene would take the hammer away, but he said, no, knock that nail down, we're going to cover it with a board. And he let me keep going. And that taught me a really good lesson about life. Now, every 3 years we gather as the Meeks Smith family. We have these big reunions, we play music, and we celebrate the legacy of our family. But one of the things that we do, we have an auction. And who here has gone to a Meeks Smith family auction? Yeah. Who here doesn't have something that Gene made, right? So I know that for me, every time I pull out that wine cork trivet, I'm going to smile and remember Gene.
Okay, well, I guess that's it. Okay, now, folks, really, it will be really a very, very long day if everybody waits for 45 seconds before you leap up here. And we really want everyone to have a chance to share. But we do want family. Anybody that wants to share something, this is the time, and may well be the only time when we're all gathered in this place. So we don't need to unnecessarily hurry. But Danny, take charge.
You've talked enough. I heard it's supposed to be short. That was my brother Mike, the oldest. In case anybody that doesn't know. Gene had so many stories to tell. But the one I saved was picking up rocks. Now, how do you think Gene made picking up rocks fun? It was for the A-frame. He needed all these flat rocks to build the fireplace. He said, come on and help, come on and help. And I think Jerry was probably there too. He takes the old pickup truck, runs it out into the field, and it's just a cow pasture, and you're like, what the heck? And I didn't know it, but it does ring a bell. He wanted red rocks. So there's all these flat rocks out in the field, and he tells us, we'll just toss them in the truck. But he only wanted the red ones. He wanted the red, and some orange is okay, but it had to be red. And so, as kids, what are you doing? You're picking up rocks and throwing them in the, right, Jerry? I see you nodding back there. He made it fun. How do you make it fun? But he did. And we're part of the history of that house.
All right,
I'll just go now because I don't think it's going to get easier. Some of my best childhood memories are, you know, after church, I'd always sit with Grandma and Grandpa at church, and you know, afterwards, I'd always hurry to Mom. I thought it was a race. Which sibling could ask Mom who can go to Grandma and Grandpa's house first? Yeah, and I'd go there, and when you're that little, it seems like a day is, you know, it lasts a week. I would go and we'd eat lunch somewhere. We'd go out, and I'd be able to watch cable TV, which was different, you know, and awesome when you're a homeschool kid with, you know, Mom, Dad didn't shell out for cable at the time, and he would take me gopher hunting, and I just remember going on those roads west of the town, you know, and just shooting pop cans and just listening to old country music, and then we'd go to Alley Connection or whatever, and those are just some of my best memories. And then recently being able to live with them has been one of the greatest joys of my life. And every morning I'd bring Harlan up, and he would sit there and play with him. Grandpa would be in his rocking chair, and Mom would be drinking coffee. And, you know, he would just sit there, play with Harlan, and visit with him. And every single day he'd go, "I never seen hair like that." Because his hair would just stick straight up. It was hilarious. But I keep finding comfort in that we're not saying goodbye, because every time we play an old country song, or we drink some black coffee, or we play a practical joke on somebody, we're remembering him and just the legacy that he left. And I feel so incredibly blessed to have Grandpa like that. And, you know, we're going to miss him. And I know Harlan's not going to remember him. I hope June remembers just directly. But I know Harlan's going to have a bunch of pictures and a ton of videos of the two of them together. And so I'm just incredibly thankful to have that time and, you know, to have a grandpa like I did.
Hi, my name's Rodney, and I'm Chester's son. And I was raised in Alaska, and we would come down, and Gene came up a lot. And like most of you here, I assume that you've had the privilege to hunt with that guy. And so I go to one of his hunting holes, and he catches me smoking pot. And we dropped him off first miles away, and he beat me back to the pickup. I just knew I was in trouble. He didn't say a word to me all day, and that was harder than getting a whooping or, you know, getting yelled at, you know. Anyway, and but later, later in life, we were still friends. He was so cool, man, and he could come. I moved to Colorado, and it was on the way to Rush, and so he traveled there 5 or 6 times, and he would just about every other year he'd show up, and they'd stay a week, and he would. I'd get home, and he'd have all the cans on top of the fence, and my son would be shooting the BB gun and the bow and arrow, and you know, and he'd be painting my daughter's toenails. I mean it. Showed me how to heat up his wife's coffee cup, how to treat the people around you. He showed me how to be a real man. Just ding dang awesome. I mean it. Proud to be his friend. And later, when you found out 9/11 was so famous, and then I found out it was his birthday, it was such a pleasure to talk to him at any time. And I sure love the family and the man. And we got married in '84 and drove through, and we stayed a couple nights with him, and Grandpa Smith was on the porch. Those are just great memories, man. I love you guys.
Childhood memories, kind of piggybacking off David. I remember, so, you know, my family lived in Nebraska for the first, 10 years of my life or whatever, where Mom and Dad were pastoring, but home was Montana, you know? So we came back to Montana for the summers and for holidays, and so, you know, a lot of the songs we sang today and a bunch more were the soundtrack of our lives, really, even when we weren't home back in Montana because of tape players and technology. I remember walking into the house one time in Nebraska, so we must have just come back from Montana, maybe summer, and I came in the house and there was, you know, the soundtrack of our lives of, you know, on the tape player playing Grandpa and Dawn and whoever else was around playing music, and Mom was at the stove cooking something and she was crying, and I was like, "What's wrong? What's going on?" "I just miss home," is what she said. And so in this weird way, that soundtrack and the smell track also, because she was probably cooking food that was fried something that Grandma and Grandpa made so much of, fried potatoes, fried onions, fried everything, fried chicken. And so, yeah, it was the smellscape. It was the, the laugh track. I mean, just all our memories are so wrapped up. A couple specific little ones. I was so impressed as a child to discover, and when I would stay at Grandma and Grandpa's house, go in their bedroom, and sometimes, I'd sleep on the floor by the bed when I stayed overnight, to discover Grandpa had candy and pop by his bed. And what I mean is jars and boxes of candy, an entire refrigerator dedicated to nighttime pop drinking. Very impressive as a child. So yeah, there was just so much about Grandpa that was unique and only him. And I like to think we've definitely carried that out as the grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I mean, there's not a twinsy set of us in the bunch. We're all are kind of our own characters. But anyway.
My name's Jerry Reynolds, and I'm a nephew. I'm one of the guys that Mike and Dan talked about that spent all my summers when I was a little kid at mostly Gene and Louise's place, but here in Montana. And the things I remember from that, I mean, it was the best part of my childhood for the most part. The 12 years old running around with a 22 or a 410 and shooting stuff and fireworks and the music with Don and Gene. I think they came out and played every Tuesday or something at the A-Frame. The songs that the song Don sang, the song the Ackley Boys just sang, I know the guys that originally did it because I love that music because I listened to it because of Don and Gene. And I lived in Portland until I was 30. In 1992, I was working for Fred Meyer, and I saw a job posting for a Fred Meyer job at what we called the B&B here in Kalispell. And I didn't even hesitate. I called and said, I want that job. And they said, you got it. And I remember calling Louise and Gene on the phone and going, you know how the B&B is all torn up right now and they're doing a remodel? Well, they're putting a deli in and I'm coming there to live. And that was 30 years ago. And, I've got a lot more great memories with all that family because I came back here. But anyway, love you, Louise, and miss Gene, and I sure loved him.
Oh, yeah, there's more music and stuff. Oh, yeah, you do have to, well, I guess I could bring this, I don't know if I couldn't bring this to you. So is there anybody that would like to have me to bring? See, we are recording this, and so we really want to be able to have well, I'm just saying that we want people to be able to hear it, but yeah. Oh, yeah, right.
Maybe I won't be able to speak because it's like public.
Yeah, we'll do that. All right.
Okay. Hi, guys. So we talked about the Little Brown Church a lot. The Smiths, the Lotteries, the Pomeroys, and I bet the squeaky thing was Ruth Sandin.
Just a wild guess.
Just a wild guess. My mom and dad got saved and we came back, and then that little church was right there next to both my grandparents, so we ended up at this little church. And Gene's big thing, and the xylophone, is that what it's? Yeah, who played that? Mrs. Pomeroy.
Right, wow, yeah.
Yeah. I turned out to be, a pot smoker and a really bad little girl, and all these people never judged me and always loved me as if I might have been their own. I felt really bad about all that. Now I know as I grow up, it's okay. It's okay. But I'm grateful. I'm so grateful my mom and dad found that little church.
Wow.
And that they got God first, and then they found that little church, and that we got to be a part of all of that stuff.
All right.
And I'm grateful. I love you.
tell this quick story because, of course, I have a million stories about Grandpa, but I don't know what year this was. I've tried figuring it out, but I think it was when we still lived in Nebraska and we were just visiting. And I know we were driving in Grandpa's pickup and we were listening to the cassette tape that was Dolly Parton, Linda Ronstadt, and Emmylou Harris. They did like a trio, and we listened to that through half the 80s maybe or 90s. I don't know. I'd have to see when it came out. And I was in the passenger seat and Grandpa was driving. He said, you know, go ahead and hop on my lap and you can drive. I was like, are you sure? Okay. So I got on his lap and I don't know if it's the music that carried me away or what, but I just drove it right off the road. And I was so shocked. And Grandpa, I did not inherit this patience. Bennett can attest. He did not get mad or anything. All he said was, well, next time, just keep it straight. Like, so simple. But that was just Grandpa. You know, he was so patient. And I don't even remember how we got out. I remember sitting in the pickup just listening to the tape. I'm sure some of the older cousins or whoever just came and got us out. This is before cell phones, so I honestly don't even remember where we were or how long it took, but I know we listened to that cassette tape, and I know he wasn't mad that I wrecked his pickup.
I met Gene and Louise because of Gloria and Don Landon. Gloria was going to beauty school, and I taught her beauty school. And I was divorced, and I had one son, and they became my friends, and so I met Gene and Louise. And I wanted my son to be around family, so every Sunday, I'd meet Gene and Louise and Gloria and Don and their kids, Rick, Donnie, and Tim, and Susie, at the B&B and have lunch with them because they were just wonderful families. And then Don and Jean, they came and put in a bathroom for me down in my house. God gave me a house. And they came down and put in the bathroom for me. And, you know, Gene was just such a delight. He always talked about being a jelly thief. He'd go to the restaurants and steal their jellies and take them home. And my sister and I, we went out to their place out west of town one time. And we were cross-country skiing with Gene. He was teaching us how. And of course, you know, I fell and just went right straight into his butt. He was in front of me. Fell in this hole and he got me out, and pretty soon I was skiing again. I fell in that same hole, and he said, now what would make a person want to fall in the same hole? But he was just a wonderful person, and Louise too. And I'm so, so grateful that they've been my friends for 54 years. Wonderful people. God bless you.
Hi, I just wanted to say, like, this has been like one of the most awesome celebration of life for a really, really great man. It's just been amazing. But there was only 3 things that were kind of weird about it, but I don't know if weird is the word, or bizarre, or odd, or whatever. But it was Gene not being up here with Dawn. It was Dennis being able to make his voice sound like Gene was right here. And it was seeing him with hair. Baldness is in you guys' family, even the in-laws. I think Luke's the only one with hair. Anyway, I want to say that in here, you guys said that he was a patriarch, and that is so, so very true. I met him way back in 79, I think it was, when we moved over here, and my mom, Jessie Schlinger, was going to the church, and I met them through that and fell in love with, I was in love with Dawn, actually, even though I was, not very big. I mean, I was way younger. No. I was. Anyway, never mind. I always wanted to confess that to you. Anyway, he was a very great man, and what I want to say mostly is that this entire extended family has meant the entire world to me and my family. You guys are a big family, but you're not very big yet. You're going to get bigger, though, right? Yeah, probably. Anyway, it's been awesome, and so I'm going to miss Gene. I loved him very much. I love you, Louise. You're welcome.
If I have time to say everything I want to say. we were so close. We were family. And I could tell you, I had a fireplace that Gene made. I had kitchen cabinets that Gene made. The first time we got a king-size bed, Melody was this size. She walked in there, she's, oh, we can have a sleepover. And he was so good to all of us, all of my kids and me, and I'd wear something to church that he'd say, did you wear your pajamas? I'd say, yep. But he was just wonderful to all of us. And Louise and I had lunch every noon for probably 30 years until I got so busy at work. I said, I just don't have time to go out and have lunch and get back for my next appointment. But anyway, it was wonderful. It was a wonderful time, and they had fun playing music together, and we were out there almost every weekend, and every time they got together, they had to play. And anyway, I loved them all. Thank you.
Short. Grandpa Gene always was there for me, and he would always put his finger on a napkin and squirt ketchup all over it and pretend he broke it. And when I was littler, it used to scare me so much. And every week, I would go out with Grandma Louise and Grandpa Gene, and we would always go to like Who Hut or different restaurants, and we would always eat together. But I got older and I couldn't do that anymore.
You can drop her off anywhere. That was the end of the joke. I want to know because I have heard conflicting accounts. Was it Dan or Mike? Must not have been Mike because he grew up to be a sheriff, or Jerry that ran the car into the garage. So I have hours of stories of Grandpa just talking, recounting things, and some of those ended up in the audio on the slideshow. And one of the stories he told was they came home and there was a dent in the garage. A hole or whatever, but he said that nobody fessed up to it. And so Grandma said, I'll get it out of them. So I have Grandpa on recorded imitating Grandma, letting everybody know she was going to find out who did this. And I think that he remembered it was Jerry, but then Grandma said it was Dan. So anyway, but apparently all the kids would just take the car when Grandpa was gone and run up and around the hills up over the house. So it just... Oh, Jerry was the narc. That's pretty great. But even in talking about it, you could just tell he didn't care. Like, I mean, he's like, well, I built this garage door, I'll build another one. he was the most laid back person. Just nothing in the world ever fazed him. And I feel like that we would be all better off if we could just learn to roll with stuff. Like Grandpa, that is probably one of my, not New Year's resolutions, but just life resolutions, is to learn to just kind of let things slide a little bit, because I get pretty stressed. Thank you. But anyway, we used to go and I would play music with Grandpa at some of the old folks' homes. And we would, he would say, hey, we're going to go do music. You want to come? And I would play with Don and Grandpa. And we would play a song, and then he'd always wonder what song we were going to do next. And sometimes somebody would say, play this one. And they would say, well, we already played that song. And he would say, invariably, this is the Alzheimer's home. They won't remember. And I just remember, like, to be able to go through life without taking yourself so seriously and with this just general irreverence is probably what helped him live that long, and to be so happy and so content, to be so talented in so many different ways, and to just not care if it was even noticed hardly, just for his own, to put something beautiful into the world. So anyway, I think that is what I will remember him for, and the fact that our whole family gets along, I think in large part because of his example of just not getting up in arms. And anyway, I hope that we can pass that along to the next generation.
Luke, what's your little one's name? Emmy Lou. She's about the age our daughter Johnine was back when Luke and her were kind of young friends. I promised Johnine I wouldn't say something about her and Luke. So that's keeping my promise. I was almost part of the family, but Larry, when I went off to Warner, he snuck in on Rena, and the rest is history. So I don't hold it against you at all. Although something probably Gene never said to anyone else but me was, he said, I sure wish it was you. So anyway, two favorite stories of Gene I've always had in my head, and but I do want to say amen to everything that's been said, and my hero, and the family of faith. And we came to Kalispell the same year, I think, that Don and Glory did, 67. And so I met up then, and I even had the privilege, what a blessing, once in a while to sing with Don and Gene. Don and Gene came, and they sang at my dad's funeral 25 years ago. Anyway, sorry. So when I was pastoring in Kalispell, I was in the office one day, and Gene came in, and the door was open. He just stood in the doorway. This is the mellow Gene, and whatever Luke just said about him, roll with it. And we just chatted the breeze for a while, talked about the weather and that. And after a while, he goes, if you have time, you might want to go over to the hospital. Melody's in emergency. I'm like, what? I didn't know if he was joking or what. It was real. Melody, you remember the accident with the car, and went over there, and there's Melody, and I'm visiting with her a little bit, and I said something about the car. She goes, the car! Ruined this car. We were going to be driving to a youth convention or something. I don't remember, Melody? Anyway, the Thunderbird. So anyway, that stuck in my mind. Gene just like, no big deal. My daughter's in the hospital. The other favorite memory, and I mentioned this to one of the guys coming in, and he said this was probably something Gene pulled on everybody. Larry, you and I were with him out in Pleasant Valley on the west there hunting, and you and I were just chatting the breeze, and Gene had gone up ahead a little ways, and we were just talking, and he had stopped, and we kind of came up to him, and he was standing there looking at a pile of what looked like elk droppings in the snow. I don't know if anybody else ever had Gene pull this on him, but anyway. So he goes, look, elk droppings, and looks pretty fresh. You can tell how long it's been since he was here. Larry and I are going, what? He said, oh, warm, still warm. It's been fresh. Pulls out of his pocket some Whoppers. There better be Whoppers here. And I'm sorry, I have to apologize. I actually had thought I'm going to bring some Whoppers, and I forgot. But anyway, those are just two. Even though I was never officially part of the family, I've always felt like part of the family. And Gene, again, just God bless.
I didn't know if I was going to be able to do this or not, but I'm going to try. It's really hard to put my dad in a, oh, you want to talk for 30 seconds, but everybody here is here because you knew my dad and loved him. And in case you didn't know him well, I wrote stuff down because I didn't want to get up here and just ramble and blubber and stuff. But then I forgot my glasses, so we'll see how that goes. But in case you didn't know my dad well, he really was the coolest guy ever. He was. He set an example of unconditional love and support in the quietest manner for many generations to follow. I don't ever remember him spanking me, although he probably should have. I've never heard him cuss. I've never heard him speak poorly about another person. I've never seen him get mad, except one time when I was in high school, I think. He said, you'd better have Tom get that beer out of your trunk. That was the worst he ever said anything to me, But Dad and I had a special relationship. I think Rena and Rick were older, and they were gone out of the house, And so I sort of like an only child because they were gone, So we fished and we hunted the mountains of Montana together with our family and friends. And for all of my life, most special, we shared a love of music. When I was really little, I remember just walking out, I think it was like a mile from the A-frame out to the highway, and just to get in Dad's truck or his cement mixer, whatever he was driving that day, I'd get up in his lap, like Rachel said. I was driving that mixer. I wanted to be a truck driver for years, and thank goodness I changed that. But some of the grandkids he would let sit on his lap, just like you were saying, and drive all over the hills. And he was brave enough to help them when it was time to get their driver's license. I know my boys, every one of them, he would drive around town with them. And one time when Taylor was learning to drive, they came home and they said that Grandpa had told Taylor, well, you can get off the sidewalk anytime. I don't know if that really happened or not, but my dad has always been a solid rock in my life. Again, sometimes just a quiet, gentle presence. The most he would ever say was, well, it'll be all right. And it always was, and it will be again. I miss our morning coffee together, and that's when he would talk and talk and talk about his childhood or being in the Army or various jobs he had had over the years. Like David was saying, that special morning time in the was drinking coffee, and when he would just really open up about things. And the rest of the day, he might just sit quietly and, just listen to whatever else was going on. But I miss that so much. And he would make me bacon. He would always have my coffee cup full of hot water when I came down so that, you know, your coffee would stay hot longer. He really had a servant's heart. And we had the privilege of living with them for the last 5 years before Mom fell, and they have been at Rena and Larry's the last 2, but that, you know, I just have, I'm so thankful that we've been able to be there with them. And he would be out, he's 90-something years old and be out shoveling so I could make my little trek across work, you know, and it's one cute thing is he would keep an eye out and he'd say, "Tell that lady she's 9 minutes late to work every day." And in turn, my girlfriends or my boss at work or whatever would say, "Your dad's out shoveling," or "Your dad's on the lawnmower." They just wanted, you know, they kept a good eye on him. But he was always, always so thoughtful and loving to our mom, and he cherished her. He spent his life making others' lives better. And every morning I go to pick up my phone to call him and think, oh, I'll ask Dad, you know, something. We were driving out hunting, and Rick and I said, "Oh, what's that road?" You know, you want to ask him, so I will have to call Tony Amundsen. But Dad has left a giant hole in our hearts and lives, but I'm so thankful and blessed that he was mine to call Dad.
Batteries and microphones. As soon as you get a battery in one, I'll say something. All right. While I dodge baby bottles and other things, and they're doing a quick stage change, I'm going to take the opportunity to debunk the Grandpa Gene never got upset about anything. It wasn't a big deal, but it was the only time I ever saw him agitated. I was moving over here to Montana. Gene and Louise had graciously allowed me to stay in their home with them, and so I got to hang out with Grandpa Roy Smith for a couple of months and had the privilege of knowing him. At the time, they were in the big house across from the mansion over on Woodland. And there was a particular soap in the downstairs bathroom that was absolutely the best soap I've ever used in my life. I mean, this stuff, it was hand milled. It had oatmeal and all kinds of emollients in it. I mean, this stuff just made your whole body feel good. So I mentioned it to Louise one day. I said, "Mama, where'd you get this soap?" She goes, "Oh, there's a little shop in town where they make it." And I said, "Wow, you know, tell me about it." She goes, "Well, it's kind of expensive, but Gene likes it. So I buy it." I go, "Well, that's all right. I'll get some. How much is it?" She goes, "Well, it's $4 a bar." Just as Gene came around the corner into the kitchen. And he said, "You paid $4 for a bar of soap?" His face was beet red. His eyes were this big. And she said, "Well, you said you like it." He said, "I don't like it, $4. And out of the room he went. But he did blow up that one time. I'm a witness.
Mom, can you play a G chord?
She's switching stuff.
We have a couple of songs. We all played a lot of music, just like everybody with Grandpa. And we have a couple that we always used to sing like 4-part style with him and kind of that old gospel style. So we have a couple that we're going to do. And this one is called A Beautiful Life. Each day I'll do a golden deed by helping those who are in need. My life on earth is but a span, and so I'll do the best I can. Life's evening sun is sinking low. A few more days, and I must go to meet the deed that I have done, where there will be no setting sun. The only life that will endure is one that's kind and good and pure. And so for God, I'll take a stand and try to lend a helping hand. Life's evening sun is sinking low. A few more days, and I must go to meet the deed that I have done, where there will be no setting sun. Life's evening sun is sinking low. A few more days, and I must go to meet the deed that I have done, where there will be no setting sun. I thought that was going to be the easy one to talk after. I'm not sure that it is. Some of us said, "Oh, we'll just say a word or two right before we sing a song." So I had planned to say something right now. I'm going to try. Grandpa meant a lot to a lot of people, and that's pretty clear today. I think we all have things that were so special that just felt like things that were just him and us, right? And I've been incredibly fortunate that I've been able to devote my entire life now, my career, everything, to the music Grandpa taught me. I've had the chance to sing songs that he taught me when I was a little boy all over. I've got to teach his music now to, honestly, hundreds of people. And ever since he's passed, the first class that I taught after he passed, in August I had planned we were going to do a whole class, in this class I was teaching, on steel guitar. So I had all these students that came to work on their PhDs in opera and studying Beethoven, and I said, well, you should learn a little bit about the steel guitar, and had picked all these recordings of Grandpa, and then he passed just a few days before I was supposed to teach that class. And just, there's so many things. When I was going to school, some of you know I went to school for kind of a long time, and now I teach. I was working in New York on my doctorate, and we were talking about music, and Grandpa didn't actually say all that much about music, which has made it difficult in some ways to try and write about him and his music, because he just didn't say much. It was all in the music. But he told me, well, if you always play by note, like reading music, you'll only be playing other people's music. But if you learn to play by ear, then you'll get to the good stuff. And I always thought that was pretty good, and I kind of made it the whole foundation of everything I've done since then. And the thing that's amazing, this idea of playing music by ear, the way that Grandpa played it, I've spent a lot of time trying to put my finger on exactly what it was that made Grandpa's music, which was just one part of his life, although a part of his life that he did about every day for 80 years, what made his music so special? And I think that what it is that he made music the way he lived his life. And it was about welcoming people in, sharing things with them, filling the world with beauty. And what's been remarkable is that that's something that I've discovered that just connects with so many people. We had people come over one time. They were folk musicians from Ecuador, and we didn't share one word between us. But I they saw my instruments and wanted me to play with them, and so I started playing music that Grandpa Gene taught me. And sure enough, people from Ecuador could latch right onto it. That's something really special. Not very many people have one thing in their life that connects with so many people and just continues one person to the next, to where this web of a blessing that he gave to the world just continues to impact people. Grandpa had it probably 5 or 6 different parts of his life, and I'm so happy that his music is still such a big part of mine. And as Luke said, we almost wrestled over who would sing Sailing Towards Home, but Mom wanted to sing it like she did with Dad for so long, and so we're going to try and sing Sailing Towards Home. I stood upon the sand
if you live long enough, you get to see the significance of some of these old gospel songs written by people who are remaining when all of their family, friends, loved ones have gone on. And now Gene has gone on, and we're on deck. But the blessed hope of the gospel is that all who trust in him can be carried safely on that old ship of Zion, which is a picture of God's church. A blessed thing. One thing that I would like to just mention is that our friend Roger Toothman back here is, when he heard that Gene had passed away, he said, I'd like to do a portrait for your family. And so he did, and he painted that picture. And Karma was leading worship the Sunday before Gene died, and he was playing fiddle right there. And she took a picture, or had her dad take a picture, however it came about, of her and Gene doing that. And that is the picture that Roger used to have a painting. So if any of you would like to have a painting, you know, a copy, however all that works, we can certainly make arrangements for you to do that. But man, when I saw that, I thought, wow, that captured Gene so stunningly well. So thank you, Roger. It was a wonderful gift to the family. Well, let's pray, should we? Father, thank you for the amazing, amazing gift that you've given us all in Gene and Louise and their family, and what a blessed and amazing heritage we have. When I consider those on both sides of the family, back for generations, that have called on your name and have been saved, and their lives have been forever changed. Now a whole several new generations are coming up. And I pray, Lord, that you would speak into all of our hearts and help us to have a fresh awareness of a need for you and the blessed hope that we can have in you, not only for this life, that we can face whatever we have to face, because you have clearly said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. So help us to have faith and confidence and hope for this life, but also for that life which is to come, that now Gene has passed into, and our parents and our siblings and that great host that has gone on. Help us, Lord, to take our place in that great progression of faith, that we can pass it on to those that come after us as well. In Jesus' name. And I pray, Lord, for the comfort for Louise and for all of the family, that you would supply the peace of God that passes understanding to each of us as we consider our lives and as we consider the life and blessings and joy that Gene has brought into our lives. And we ask these things, we thank you, and we bless you in Jesus' name. Amen.
When this life is over, I'll fly away.
Well, boy, he who endures to the end shall be saved, I guess. So thank you for being here. There are some refreshments and stuff there. Want you to feel free to grab them. Come on in here. So, there's probably not room for everybody to be in there at once. But grab something and come and eat and drink and be married and encourage one another and share together. So thank you. Lord bless you. A great gob.